Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a work video today. This is going to be a longer video. I had a redwood tree that I have to remove. And you see we have a disease going around. It's called a pitch canker disease. It's called redwood canker. And it seems to be quite infectious, and we've got a lot of trees that we have to take down. And this client has a number of trees that are dying. So it's in kind of a tight location with a lot that we can break. So when I evaluate how I'm going to do a job, the first thing I like to do is go around and spot all the obstacles, all the things, the lights in the ground. And they've got a lot of things that we could wreck here. So the first thing I did was have one of my guys dig a sort of a trough area where we can drop the wood. And there were some big roots in there that we had to get out. So I got out my spurs, I got out my Wescos. I've had these Wesco boots for over 30 years. They look pretty good with a bit of polish on them. And I've got a new pair of gecko spurs, the gaffs. And there's my old set of spurs. I've actually got two sets of supports for the legs, and they're pretty comfortable. But the geckos, I've got the long spurs, and those are for real thick bark. So we had this one big root. There was only really one area that I could drop the wood that wouldn't potentially go flying into the pool or across the yard or break the bricks and the pavers. So I had this one big root that we had to grind for a little while to get it out of the ground, and then I dug up the area. So there's the backyard from up in the tree. I used those long spurs to get up there. And unfortunately, the bark is not thick enough on this particular redwood tree. Those long spurs are really for real thick 2 and 3 inch bark, and they'll penetrate the bark and get into the wood. But I was having a hell of a time with those long spurs because I'd kick it into the trunk, and I could barely pull my leg out. They would stick in so tight. So I think I'm going to trade those gaffs in for some shorter gaffs and just keep those for the occasional real thick bark tree. I like the geckos. I like the way the Velcro holds them on. I like the whole look and the feel of them, but the gaff length is a mistake for me. There we go. That's a good shot of them right there. Those Wescos, I ordered those years ago, and they were actually fitted to each of my feet. And my feet have changed a bit over time. They still fit pretty good. They're reserved just for using spurs. So I keep them in the closet. I don't break them out that often. So they're in really good shape. But they do make a big difference when you're wearing gaffs all day long. So I'm very, very old school. So a lot of the videos you see on YouTube these days show you all the new techniques and all the new gadgets and all the new toys. But I'm an old dog, and I think a lot of you guys can relate to this, especially if you've been in the business for a long time. And if you're a younger climber, you're probably going to be critical of a lot of things. But it's kind of hard to change an old guy. I'm fast. I'm efficient. I'm safe. I do like to take my rope up with me and toss it over branches up above and tie into it. That allows me to kick my flip line out a little bit, but I also have an upper support, which gives me a little bit more stability. I do like to leave some stubs as well, and I know there's going to be a lot of critics out there that say, oh, you should always cut every single stub so close that you're roping. Loggers do that, and truth be known, I like to leave a few stubs because after being on the spurs for as long as it takes to take a tree down, my feet hurt. I don't know about you, but I have never found a set of spurs that are comfortable.
Let's get a big one.
I like to leave a stub here and there, especially when I'm piecing it down. And because we've only got one drop spot for this whole tree, one area that I can put the wood, and it was only about a 6x6 area. I kind of like to have a handle for some of these pieces of wood. It also allows me to have a bit of a spot that's going to stop my rope or my flip line from sliding down. So I mean, there's so many ways to do the same job. I'm kind of tried and true in my own ways. Yes, I used my saw with one hand. I do use my saw lanyard on the saw unless they're really heavy limbs, and that's something that is worthy of a video all of its own. Because if you're cutting down big heavy limbs, you should always unclip your saw lanyard, because there is a strong possibility of, as it's going, you can have the saw hook it and pull on you. Sharp bits, get impaled by something that is sharp. I oftentimes will make cuts when I have to manage something that allows me to, turn my saw off and grab hold of it, and then I can control where it goes. Because any of these pieces could redirect. They could hit the tree, they could hit a stub, they could hit anything on the way down and then rock it off. And like I said, we had so much to break on this job. Frankly, the reason that I'm
do this one
climbing
kind of
this
fast.
one is I didn't feel
Ready?
comfortable letting Jorge do the climbing, because he's as good as he is, he's a little bit more reckless than I am. Fortunately, because everything was going down on the brick patio area, the pavers, because we were protecting all the little things. We put plywood out, put all sorts of stuff. The light brush was not a big deal. Here I'm putting a little bit of a, not real monkey's fist, but I wrap stuff up around the flip line, or the clip to my rope, and I use that to toss it. There we go. Taut line hitch. I'm not even using a Blake's hitch. I know how to tie it. Sometimes I use the Blake hitch, but I go 3 under, 1 over, and that's tried and true. I've been using this same knot for 47 years, and I like it. I feel comfortable. Sometimes I'll put a keeper on the end of my tail, but because I'm double tied in most of the time while I'm up in the tree, I feel real secure. I feel good. I also have an old style flip line. It's got a cable inside there, and I use the knot. I feel so comfortable with it. I've used the adjustable flip line mechanical devices, and they're nice, but there's just something about the knot that feels good to me. I mean, I really enjoy it. So I'm pretty good at tossing the rope up and over. There, we're getting up a little bit higher. Beautiful yard. I mean, we had an unbelievable swimming pool down there. I'm using my new GoPro, and I'm kind of switching it around to the different settings here. There's one setting that's real wide angle, makes everything look a little bit smaller, and makes it look like you're 300 feet off the ground. I'm probably 60 or 70 feet off the ground right now. Whole tree was maybe 90 feet tall. It's not a huge redwood tree. It was pretty straightforward. But even on a straightforward tree, you can get into trouble. And there was, like I said, there was so much that we can break. And I was relying on the ground guys. I kept telling them, protect this, protect that. Put up a wall of wood. Don't take all the brush away. But they were so anxious about getting the job done, getting everything done, that they kept pulling all my protective stuff away, which kind of pissed me off, actually. It was like, they were more concerned about, their part of the job, and I wanted to get to a point when I was actually bringing the wood down that I knew that if anything bounced. And there was roots everywhere. If you drop a piece of wood from 100 feet in the air and it hits a root, that piece of wood's just going to take off. I did not want to damage the pool. I didn't want to break the fence. I didn't want to break any of the obstacles around. So I was a little cocky about it. I got real pissed off at them when they didn't do it. So here we go, still tying knots, flip the rope up. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm 66 years old, but I still know what I'm doing. I'm still comfortable. I'm still safe. My feet hurt like hell, though, so every time I leave a stub and I can stand on that for a little while, it takes some of the pressure off. Granted, when you leave stubs, they could potentially catch up on something. You could drop a branch and it can hook. So on certain types of trees, like a big wide oak, where you've got branches everywhere, it's not as good an idea. When you have long, skinny branches on a redwood, you can get away with it. So rules are rules, but if you know what you're doing and know how to work with the tree and make the cuts the way you need to do it to be comfortable and to be consistently safe, do what feels good to you. I'm not going to sit here and be a person that says you have to do it this way. I hate that. You know, it's like there's so many cocky tree guys out there on YouTube. You know, they're all about, oh, I've got the rope runner, I've got the chicane, I've got the, akimbo, I've got this, that's best, this best. You know, use what works for you, but don't discredit, tried and true. I mean, DRT is what they call a double rope. It's actually a single rope wrapped around. You know, there's pros and cons to both sides. And I have played with SRT, single rope, and there's something about hanging on to two ropes that I really like. I like the feel of it. I like the, there we go. I'm hanging on two ropes. It's just solid. It's secure in my hand, and it's what I've gotten used to. You know, if you grew up driving a stick shift and you know how to drive a stick shift, you end up loving a stick shift. If you grew up learning how to drive an automatic transmission, you just don't know how to drive a stick shift and you won't do it, so you blast it. That's what I got left. I kept going all the way to the very tip top, and when it got to the point where I had to blow the top out, I only cut about a 15-foot piece or so. There we go. I used a ring. I do love these rings. They're so easy to put on, so smooth. And what I'm doing is I took a branch that I snapped it off so that it would keep the rope away from the wedge cut that I'm making. So I put
Let's fly all the way. Ready?
Here,
I'm going to put my notch right here.
I instructed Jorge, who I trust my life to this guy. I said, I want you to let this fly all the way to the ground, let it slow it down, because I'm on this tall, skinny pole, and I don't want you to jerk me around. So I've got the GoPro mounted on chest block here, so I'm not really managing it too well. But quick and easy. And I pull it back over because I'm going to cut on the other side. Make sure everything's clear. I didn't want to drop the top on the pavers because if it flipped over and came down butt first, it would plow right through them. So there he goes. I want you to notice that there's hardly any movement on the top. He slowed it all the way down in such a way that he stopped it just before it hit the ground, so it was a long, slow descent. Because if he would have stopped it abruptly, he would have jerked me all over the place. Now here's where potential for hurting yourself really goes up. You know, when you have lots and lots of little pieces, I didn't want to take big chunks for a number of reasons. But my choice in how I wanted to handle this was all about hitting that sweet spot where my wood would not fly away. I suppose I could have continued taking 6 and 8 foot pieces and rope them down. But honestly, you know, this wood cuts so quick and easy. It's so easy and so fast to manage that I was just processing the wood. And by the time it hit the ground, they picked up the firewood and put it away. So, you know, a lot of it has to do with expediting the job. And you notice I do leave some stubs sometimes. Look at that. It's a perfect handle. It simplifies things, you know. And I'm not going to say that that's the right way to do it. A lot of you are going to say, oh, you always clean up every single stub. Da, da, da. But, yeah, that's bullshit. Yep. Excuse my language. I don't like to swear on this. But I don't know. I don't know if you're enjoying watching me work here. I did get the whole tree completely brushed out and down to about a 40-foot log before I got down to lunch. Kept going. All of this is done on one tank of gas too. You know, I knocked out all the brush and I got the wood down as far as I could go with my. It's a 201T. I still like the 200T, but they don't make those anymore. So I had a brand new sharp chain on here, so it was cutting really nice. Look at that sky. Isn't that beautiful? Nice cool day. It was cool in the morning anyways. In the afternoon it got up in the 90s.
Sit up.
So this is the way I work. I do call out a lot to the guys. I did have to switch out. At this point, I said send up the 362, and always have the guys on the ground start up the bigger songs because they flood really easy, and try to make a point of not leaving them out in the sun. So if they're sitting on the ground out in the sun, sometimes they're hard to start. They flood easy. Once you get them going and keep them going, it's not so bad. But if a guy sends up a bigger saw up in the tree that's a bear to start, and you've got to pull it and pull it and pull it and pull it. I mean, there's been times I've been so mad at the saw that I wanted to throw it out of the tree. Didn't do it, but I think you guys can relate to that. And I'm just processing and processing and processing. I keep hitting that same spot, one spot down there. And the guys keep piling up some brush around it, but they didn't give me as much brush as I wanted. And I'll show you later, but one piece did go down and it hit a branch and it shot over and took out a faucet. Oh, that pissed me off. Shouldn't have happened. They should have put a little barricade of wood over there. And, just that one little screw up kind of ruined the day for me. So I got down to the tree, kind of pissed off. But, that's all I got left. That's about 30 feet, so that's not too bad. So lunchtime, I'm gonna sit down, got my coffee, take a break for a little while, and big old property, beautiful. The customer said, go ahead and use the pool if you want. Oh yeah, I was the only one that used the pool. I thought it was great. Oh, they had this little grotto, this little underground grotto here, and I kept asking them, I said, what's in there? What's in there? And the woman finally says, well, go find out. I said, really? I can go, sure. So, that just changed my whole attitude for the whole afternoon. I loved it. Felt a little bit like I don't know if you've ever seen the special on the Playboy Mansion where they got this little grotto where all kinds of different stuff happens. I could imagine that going on in there. There's a little seating area, and they have lights. I don't know if there was any jacuzzi stuff or anything going in there, but they bought the house this way.
Hey.
It makes me wonder about the previous owners and what
in,
kind of parties went on at this property.
I don't know why
They've got waterfalls that kick on over. There's a waterfall that falls over the top of the grotto, and there's one over on the left. She's got all these switches all over the place. Anyway, back to work. So I'm up about 30 feet or so, and isn't that a cool pool? That's really something special. So I got all the way to the top of the tree and continued to chunk it down. Got it to a point where I think the last 10 or 12 feet of it or so, we just pulled it over. I did have to protect a couple of things, put up some wood so it wouldn't roll. Sawdust in the pool. Oh my God. Always warn your clients. Tell them there's going to be a mess in the pool. And because it's shocking because a lot of sawdust came from all over the place and just filled up their pool. Now here's the problem. One piece of wood rolled all the way over. See, they had some rounds up, but where there wasn't a round, a piece rolled over, and there was a faucet in the ground, and it was an old metal faucet, and it was glued to plastic. So somebody did that a long time, and it was about 18 or 20 inches deep. I couldn't believe it. So I had to go to the hardware store and get some new components. I was able to cut it off. There's the old part. And I had to we had to turn off the water to their house. So there's load number 1 into my truck. I still got another load that I got to go back on Monday. The guys did chip a lot of it. This is kind of interesting. We got this new guy. He's Jorge's nephew. And he's a really sharp young guy. And he's eager to learn. So Jorge's teaching him how to use the maul. You swing it up over the head and you use the momentum of the maul and you slam it down. So Tony, you show it how it's done. He's got a great attitude.
No pressure, Tony.
Couldn't quite get the swing of it. He's pushing it now. He's not letting the maul work at it. So I walked over and I picked up the maul with one arm and I slammed it down and split a piece in 2 parts. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that.